then we're gonna have Saint play maybe May.
Period.
And then whatever supports like Lucio and then something else. It could be Bap, it could be Kiri, it could be Ana. We'll see what happens.
Okay. So Zarya, Reaper, May, and then like Bap Lucio-ish.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think Bap Lucio would be pretty strong on that. Let me load up the
Okay.
map and then get this going. Okay, so does everyone know, first of all, like what the win cons of that composition is going to be?
Maywall?
Yeah, let's go from like top down. So is it like Brawl, Spam, or Dive first?
Brawl.
Brawl.
And then, yeah, and then you said the Maywall after that. So, and then just a quick rundown so we're all on the same page. What tempo is Brawl, and what are we trying to accomplish with the Brawl?
Fast.
Okay. And then
Run at them.
specifically how? Because you can also run at them with Dive.
By like what's the word I'm looking for? Playing off their cooldowns and off your own cooldowns.
Yeah, perfect.
So if they have like cooldowns that prevent you from killing them, forcing those cooldowns, and then basically just running at them after.
Okay, yeah, so let's go over okay, so first our team, and then we'll go over their team. Or like how you play into their team. Your team is going to be Zarya, Reaper, May, Bap, Lucio. So what are your most important cooldowns that'll help you rush? And we already slightly went over this.
Wall, bubble, wraith.
Lucio speed. Or just like you're saying, like to like go in.
Yeah, to
play
go
off
in.
their
Like what will
cooldowns.
we need to fight?
Yeah. Yeah, wall, bubble, Lucio speed. And then max hit wraith from Reaper.
Okay.
Or I guess Reaper TP.
Oh yeah, Reaper TP.
Okay, I think that one's a little less impactful on like to be able to go in.
Yeah.
So these are like the things that'll enable your team. So when you can go in. Let's think about the mirror. So if you're playing into the exact same enemy composition, and then that way we'll find the flaws in our composition here. Not the flaws, but the weaknesses. What are the cooldowns that'll allow us to go in onto them on top of, let's say they don't have wall, bubble, and speed?
Bap Emort. They're playing Bap.
Beat LA.
Reaper Wraith.
Yep.
As bubbles could go here as well.
Yep.
What are you saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then wall. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The ice block.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ice block. Wall. Ice block.
And then one more.
Speed away.
Sorry, what was that?
Speed away.
Yeah. So like, I forgot what that ability is called, but pretty much speed.
Amp.
Yeah.
Yeah, amp. That's what it is. Okay, we get the idea. Okay, and then let's go over also the Queen comp. So what are the threats to your comp when they're on Queen comp, and what are the cooldowns that you guys can take advantage, because that's the usual Brawl. So and then I'll write it out, but it's probably going to be Queen, Bastion, maybe a Sim, or Bastion, Sim, or Genji, Soj, and then Bap Lucio or Kiri Lucio. So let's go over the first one, which would probably be Queen, Bastion, Sim, Bap Lucio.
So their threats would be Turret, level 3 beam, knife pull,
Queen shout.
Yeah. I feel like shout and
TP.
Lucio speed and TP. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then what do we have over them? Like, what can we use to go in?
wall, bubble. Wait, basically everything listed.
Okay, yeah. And then the only or if they don't have lamp, for example, like what cooldowns would they Yeah, that's pretty much it. But okay, so and then now let's go over the Genji Sojourn comp. For the exact same thing. So I would do one comp and then the Genji Sojourn comp here.
Yeah, so rail.
Mhm.
Um,
Ash, maybe?
Well,
Oh, dash. Yeah.
Genji
Oh.
Dash, Genji
Mhm.
Dash.
I mean, a lot of them are going to be the same as
Yeah.
Yeah.
the other thing. Shout, amp,
Mhm.
knife.
Yep.
Yeah. Speed. Oh yeah. Sorry.
knife.
Yeah. Amp. Then also the
There's
deflex.
double amp. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the exact same thing where I guess we can put Suzu as well here because they might be running a Curie, but Lamp and Suzu, the immorts,
Mhm.
are the things that we can take advantage of. So, I think the biggest thing is in-game identifying these things and playing for them mentally, because from
Mhm.
the scrim codes that I was watching before, it seemed like we knew what to do, but kind of like when you're in a conversation and you zone out, you're listening but you're not listening, or you're like reading a book but you're not really reading the book, and you're just going through the motions instead of like purposefully looking for these cooldowns and playing off these cooldowns. So what I'm going to do is we like in game you'll never have the ability to think this out, so it should just kind of be like a flashcard where, for example, if you see the color green, like things should just pop into your mind, like a tree is green, or you don't think that, you just feel it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a couple of cooldowns that you guys have and a couple of cooldowns that they don't have, and I'm going to put the positions onto the map, and just as a quick drill have us be able to determine whether or not it's worth, or whether or not our team should take any action, or like stay still, or pretty much identify whose turn it is, because in Brawl it's kind of like a turn-based thing where you can take your turns at the same time, but yeah. And then after we identify, for example, whose turn it would be, then we can identify what action should be taken, or if any. So let's go ahead and do. Let's say we have all of our cooldowns except for both of our bubbles, and okay, if they're on the mirror composition, then they don't have any of their bubbles. They use immortality, and they use wall. And then let's get our position here, where, or I should probably just write it out. I don't know how to use Epic Pen not in the spectator mode. Okay, this is terrible, but
Maybe do N to bring up the thing at the bottom so that it doesn't.
yeah, that's in the spectator mode, but I'm in a custom lobby, so I guess I just try again
Oh.
until. Okay, so let's say we're here. Their Zarya is, or their Bat Lucio Zarya is here, and they just use those cooldowns. So no wall, no bubbles, and no cryo, no freeze. Is it worth pushing out if we have only no bubbles?
Okay, so
Where are we? Again?
Our Zarya is pretty much holding here, and our back line
okay.
is just floating.
and do we have all of our cooldowns?
Everything except the bubbles.
How's the energy? Where's our?
Let's say both are at 60.
Okay.
Let's go,
Oh.
baby.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's worth.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And then let's do like 2 more, and then I think we should be able to go through. And these are just going to be increasing in difficulty. So,
Okay.
both teams don't have wall.
Okay.
Both teams have like 1 bubble. No Reaper Wraith on both teams. No Immort. They have Suzu. Or yeah, we have no Immort. They have no Suzu. This is getting really complicated, but we have Amp and they don't have Amp. But they are holding at the back of the point with their so their tank is right here, our tank is right here, we're over here. And then to re-summarize again, no lamp, no amp, only 1 bubble, no wraith, no wall.
And we do have Reaper TP, right?
Yeah, we do have TP. So
No
is it
one
worth
has
going in
wall?
here?
And they do have Emort.
They don't have your mark.
I
The-
feel like it.
The only thing they have on you is amp, but you guys basically have no cooldowns. And let's say it's first fight.
So we have no cooldowns and they only have amp essentially.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
first fight.
And
What
Yeah,
are
if
your
we're-
options here?
yeah, so since we have no amp, it's hard to retreat. So we might as well play it out. And since I guess amp is really, I guess other than the healing, it's the speed is more useful and
Mhm.
like engaging. But if we're already engaged in the fight, then it doesn't matter too much.
Okay. So should you push forward and go for their backline here, or like, what would be a decent plan of action?
I feel like
So we have the better position for this because they be a little high ground.
Wait, hold on, let me turn up your volume. I can barely hear you.
I think the only issue with that is that we're kind of like really like we're a brawl comp, not poke. So even though we have like a better like high ground position, we won't really be able to like do as much with it.
But it's the same thing for them, right? Like they can't really do anything if they're not. If
Yeah,
don't
they,
have-
basically they can speed onto us, but then
Yeah.
we can't
I feel like
Well, they
this
retreat.
the angle for them speeding onto us is better for us than it is for them because we have a lot of like walls and cover to utilize compared to like if we waited for cooldowns and then rushed onto them, they're like way more out in the open. And so like if we wait instead for like speed or wall, then all we have to do is just like have Reaper TP into the back and at the same time we speed in. So I feel like it's just better to wait.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, yeah. So the way that I was thinking about it, also to get another opinion, some other factors to consider is if you're in the first fight neutral, and they're only slightly up, it's very hard to break in and be able to rush into the backline. You guys were saying. So your next best bet, especially when you're on brawl in the neutral, if you don't have a better cooldown trade, it's like stalemate. So you can't really make anything happen. So if you keep that in the back of your head, so you don't like make a bad habit of making rash decisions when you think you can go. Also, whoever gets their ultimates first. So if you have a mid-fight ult track, which that's a lot to ask for. It's very hard on your ult tracker, especially if they're not like very mechanically solid. But if you have a mid-fight ult track, or if one of your players, for example, is 70 to like window, which will probably come first, you can call the 70 to window and make the decision based off of that with the feeling in your mind. Okay, so now let's do a version where they're on the queen composition. And then I'm going to ask just in the default, so let's say both of you get here at the exact same time. And then your Zarya, let's say, yeah, the map is just split down the middle. Your Zarya has no bubbles, and they just use form.
On?
Sorry, Bastion.
Bastion.
Yeah, Bastion form.
And they have so they can't sim TP in basically. unless they
Yeah,
want, like
yeah.
a no form Bastion.
And their sim is
Um,
fully charged. Should you push forward
this-
on this or not?
No.
And we have what bubble?
You have no bubbles, but
Sorry,
you have.
no, we have no but we have everything else.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like it would be a good idea to pressure them to use other cooldowns, so that when by the time Bastion has form again, they're down other CDs, and then we can utilize it better. Like
Okay.
utilize like this better. So like example being like Reaper has Wraith and TP, right? Even though we don't have bubbles. If he has Wraith, he can still get out. So he
Okay.
can pressure them to use some sort of cooldown, whether that's like JQ shout or like Sim TP or like a Suzu or an Emort. And then once those cooldowns are out, Bastion's gonna have turret again. So then we LOS the turret, and then afterwards we just like fight it. Or like we just kill him on turret. because we're gonna have bubbles, and they're not gonna have Emort. So you just like burst through. They can't protect him anymore.
Okay, sure. And so, are you guys going to default to doing that? Because you could make the play where you amp speed into them and try to get the wall, because the Bastion doesn't have form and they can't peel for the Queen as hard. And I think that's important to understand as a team before, where you can just play like 7D scrims and run it out in like theory of evolution, your playstyle as a team. Or we can just think it out like once beforehand and understand our teammates through both like feeling of how fast we want to be playing and, you know, correcting mistakes from before. So, yeah, in a situation, they're probably going to kite back to point where they don't have turret form. You guys are going to all wait for the turret form and then build your ults, right? Or take trades and build ults. Okay, so let's go over the default for, let's say, this map, for example. Now that we know the interactions, if they're on a mirror composition and we meet here and we use all walls, what is the strong neutral of this position? With, yeah, in mirror. So where do you guys want to be stabilizing?
Feel like if you mean like location wise, like where we want to be like on this map?
Yeah.
I feel like kind of like where your mouse is right now, like a little higher up. I feel like trying to like gain aggressive position like up there, because there's so much cover there that if you force them like behind the point, they're like so out in the open and they have to walk so far for cover.
On the other hand, what are the advantages of the point instead?
Reaper could go by himself, flank around point.
What else are you thinking?
Well, obviously, if you go point, you probably cap it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I want to point out, the advantage of. And not to say that either one is strictly better than the other, because there will be lots of like cooldown, and like if one team is closer to window, then maybe playing up height is better. Or let's say your Zarya is like 200 HP and then you can't play point, and so you need to like, or you need to rotate early. Understanding the advantages of either, so you can make that split sec decision, and whoever has the most information or whoever's calling the most can make that decision for you guys. But also consider the on point, if you put your Zarya up here and your Reaper over here with the Zarya, and you can just anchor your backline in the back, you're gonna have a really nice time building first ults, and they have to take first aggression into you. So you can set the tempo by making them come into you. And because they're not on a Sojourn, because they're not on an Ashe or like a flying character or something that's gonna spam you out really heavily, you can really utilize the corners back here on point. Where your Baptiste and Lucio are just chilling and building ult, and if they window, you can speed your Zarya out with bubble. If they wall, you always have the opportunity to play against the wall, and if they get a really good wall, then you guys are kind of screwed, to be honest. But I think, yeah, it's a bit more preventable, because you can always play like around the corner and have your Lucio in LOS. But on the other side, they have to come into you, so if they come out, you always get the wall easily. I'm not articulating this properly, but basically,
No.
yeah, the brawl stalemate is really nice for you when you're on point, because they have to do something to get you guys out, and you guys can chill and just wait for them to mess up.
Okay. So just a quick question. This is saying, this is like at the beginning of the match. This is like where you're trying to like position yourself. So let's say like you're saying, like basically if we're both like coming out through height, right? And you meet like on the middle high ground there, and you kind of have like a neutral fight, you position yourself, like we make the decision to basically try to like walk to point instead.
Yeah.
Or like position ourselves on the point. And then after that, let's say we win the fight, for example, then we would walk up on their high ground side probably, and then kite back to the point when like we get forced out.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I think most likely what's going to happen is you guys will come up here and meet, and the walls will be exchanged and such. And it's important to just know what your team prefers and that the strengths and weaknesses of each position, so then you can make use of the opportunities. For example, if you take aggression, you can't push past here, because the enemy tank is like right here and their BAP is positioning back here. You can call for your team to rotate to point, and then everyone stabilizes on point, and then you just hold them on point. Versus if you can force them out, that'd be best case scenario. But what's most likely gonna happen is if they don't match the rotation, and if they don't have wall to punish your rotation, and you get here first, you can really punish them for their hesitation, just because you know the default way better than the enemies, and you might end up winning that fight because you build ult way faster. Your BAP and Lucio are in a really nice position that you just hold the neutral you hold a strong position. So I think it comes down to more of like, what is that? Like setting foundation for yourself to have that split-second decision-making where it'll be on a case-by-case basis, but for the most part, that's where, that's like the decision-making behind it.
Okay. And then another quick question. So
Mhm.
in the middle of like that rotation, the job of the Lucio is to like safely get his like BAP over to the other side without being like, because let's say like they see, because the case of this is basically the Zarya is pushing up with like your DPS to make sure that they can't like push up on you, right? And then that way the BAP and the Lucio like rotate to that side, and at the same time you're rotating to the point, or like your tank and your DPS are rotating to the point.
Yeah,
like-
in some scenarios, I think more so that you guys are just looking for an opportunity for them to mess
Okay.
up, or opportunities where you can use your cooldowns to punish them. Or even better, because most likely it'll be the opportunity arises where you can punish them, but there's nothing like no team winning opportunity to be had. Like no team fight winning opportunity to be had. So instead you punish them, and that way you take tempo, so then you can control the strong neutral.
Okay.
So yeah, if
Yeah.
their Zarya goes down to 200, but it's like, okay, we should not push that. Instead of hesitating and everyone staying here and just kind of staring at them and like waving and saying hi, we can immediately like know, okay, maybe we can push and take the space and then stabilize over here instead of having our
Okay.
core sit up here. We can have our core rotate, or we can play slow and our Zarya can be accommodating and wait and play here, or everyone can rotate back around and make use of the time that you just bought for yourself, so that you just earned. And then my cursor's gone, so I have to restart my Overwatch, but
Okay, cool. Thank you. I was just like trying to figure out like, or like visualize how that rotation would look, basically.
and then it wouldn't be the like the hardest rotation ever. It'll probably be very unspoken, and that's why I think going over the defaults right now are very important. Because if you have to have someone hard calming every single rotation and like shepherding your team, it's going to be very hard. There's going to be a lot of resistance in getting your team in.
But yeah, basically, I just want to ask the question in case there was like players that were unsure of like how exactly we would like tackle that. They know how to like do that, basically.
Yeah. And then like in application, when it comes to it, it's more so like how you guys are able to identify what's going on, how you react to it, and how you react to the opportunities presented to you. So it's more of an art rather than a science once you actually get into the game. But it's very important to know the science, so then you have a solid like reasoning as to why you should be doing some things.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a replay code for the other two maps, so the hard part is over. Let's go over this map now. So now that we know the strengths and weaknesses, and we've seen like a couple of scenarios, what is the default? Like, okay, let's go over what the default pathing is on this round. From the beginning. So you come out here, and then now where do you go from here?
High
I
ground.
think
right?
High ground.
Yeah.
Like all the way to the right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're on the Reaper May, which high ground is better? The inside or outside high ground?
Can you show me? Okay. I think
One or
the outside is better
Okay.
because I only say that because the tank can easily just drop down off the height, and then like, I guess maybe it's neutral somewhat. It depends. Because if the tank drops down off the height and they're not somebody that can easily get high ground, then you could just push forward. You could just run at their team in the back line while their tank is just stuck there on the bottom trying to like find a way back up.
Yeah, that's in the mirror.
So it's
Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay, it's the mirror. So if Zarya drops down and falls, I think then both are good and you can just push forward on their team if she drops down. But I think they both have like their benefits.
Okay. Let's say if they're on Queen, Soj, Genji. Now, how does this change? And then I want to hear from someone other than Rogue.
Yeah, I think. I think 2 is better because this is like more. I guess 1 is more open for them, and if they have Sojourn Genji, then compared to Reaper May, they have more poke. So going around 2 might be better.
Yeah. And then also, if you're thinking of your win con and how you accomplish it, your wall is going to be super empowered by the chokehold, and they cannot push past, so you can set the tempo that way. Against which composition should you, or if any, like, should you go point after, or like play out here and then everyone drop point? What do you think?
Alright.
Oh, okay. You're saying Pharah, like a flyer comp, in which like.
Okay. Yeah, I think that might be one. It might be more beneficial to kite out here. Unless the Pharah is playing outside, because if the Pharah is playing inside, which she most likely will for the vertical cover, then you can kite outside and then bait the tank with the wall. Or look to build an ultimate. Is there any other comp where you kite point after like the neutral trade on top?
Be like a dive, or actually no, I don't know.
Yeah, I think dive or more so rush. If they're for some reason running like a rush, like a Ryan May Reaper, something without mobility, or Somber Tracer, where you can just huddle on point. Remember, they, even though this high ground is a very strong high ground, the idea of the brawl being a standstill and like a stalemate is still present. So if they don't have a tank or a DPS that can pressure you, or healers that can supports that can pressure you on point, taking point is usually very, very strong because you'll just build ult over time. That being said, don't take point if you're against like Sojourn Genji. Otherwise, you're just like fish in a barrel on point. And then going over the neutral also. If you're playing for ult, and if you find the opportunity to, you guys can kite out here. Where's I going with this? I think there's like one scenario that I wanted to go over where, let's say they're on Sojourn Genji, and you find the wall on their queen, and then they have to back up. Or, oh yeah, we should also go over retake and defending. So on defending, where's the best place for your Zarya to play if they're on like Queen Sojourn Genji? Because the mirror is very easy. It's just like take high ground. There's no trick questions. So if they're on Sojourn Genji, where's the best place for your Zarya to play?
High ground.
Sorry, what was that?
High ground.
Okay. Yeah, up here on the high ground, and then where does the core play to support?
I think like Reaper should be like up front and main, and then the support should be behind the Zarya.
Yeah, and then so now the more complicated part. How are you guys looking to trade into that composition? Because if you don't take any action, they're just going to build rail, and they're probably going to build window, and just like keep on railing you until you have no bubbles, and then run out of all your defensive cooldowns.
So are they playing Kiri or BAP in that?
Either one would. They'll both charge their ult very fast.
Okay. Because yeah, then I guess like Sojourn after she uses a slide is like a weak point in that
Mhm.
comp, right? So
And
Yeah.
no shout.
Yeah. I
We
guess it's
go
like
in.
utilizing Maywall for them to use cooldowns. Like if you force them to use like emort when you use a wall, and then you like pressure more after that because they like bap emort, and then
Mhm.
they'll probably also like shout for like the extra HP
Okay.
just for like a Maywall. Then you like utilize more of your own CDs to like pressure that.
Okay. Is there a better, or where would you Maywall them in this scenario?
You could do it like right in front of where the Zarya is located, like on that staircase. No, because
Okay.
like JQ wants to fight in your face, so she's going to be fighting in the Zarya's face, most likely. Or are you saying like in the case of them just like waiting for their ults?
Yeah, in the case of them waiting for their ult. So their JQ's
So
like
so
avoiding the
she's
walls, just
way
playing over here.
okay.
Might walk
mean,
up
if
to
they're
main
get-
every once in a while.
Um, do you want me to answer? Or do you want to have somebody else answer?
Either or.
Someone who hasn't spoken, answer right now.
Maybe just don't peek them. Like just go around the corner so that the Sojourn can't really see you at all, and just wait for them when they walk up. Then you wall.
So give up
That
space
is an option.
so that
Yeah.
they put themselves in a weak position
Yeah,
or
and if they
an
get a point,
opportunity to
just-
wall.
Yeah.
And then the queen walks up and the Sojourn and Genji walk up, and then their supports rotate in. So that is an option, but not a very. It definitely doesn't feel very good because now their queen has full space to drop and avoid the wall. Their supports are fully set up and we can't go onto them. So I'm glad we looked at this option. What is so what, like, let's improve on this. Let's like evolve this strategy. What else can we do instead?
So you're saying the same strategy or a different one?
Either or. How can we better play this defense against the Surge comp?
I feel like you can just if JQ is gonna give up space so that she can't get walled, then I feel like you can just pressure her, walk up more on her, so that she's forced to like go farther back into a choke that she can get walled on, or or just like being able to like brawl so that you guys are getting like so that we're getting ults too, or like getting damage and like charge our own ults.
Okay. One thing that I want to also mention is if you play down here with your Mei and your Zarya, and then you can play your BAP and Reaper out here. This is not a bad position because I wanted us to like evolve to get to this point and consider it as a strategy, especially if you know that their Soge player is one of their stronger players. You can adapt and play over here because this wall here is way more effective. Where you the queen has to walk in, and you have this wall here, and you all LOS the Sojourn here, or else she has to play over here, and it's really bad for her because she can get walled, or when the tank walks up, they wall her here, or here if they decide to walk main. Nevertheless, I think we don't have an example where we can look at this with ults either, but let's talk about the retake. So, for example, if you're retaking, and I think this is like extremely more hard because they're on like a spam-based composition, so you have to make something happen, yet you're pushing into another brawl, so it's kind of a stalemate. So what's your plan on being able to retake in without any ultimates, for example? Say you immediately lose the first fight.
probably Reaper TP with bubble, onto like probably Jucker, Queen, Lucio, or Sojourn.
Hold on. First of all, which path should we take? I guess we have like 1, 2, 3.
Kind of like 3.
3? Okay.
It kind of forces them all into the back of the
Yeah.
point.
Mhm.
Like if you guys are all coming from the high ground, and so you are all taking charge of that high ground, and it forces them to play on point, like towards the back of the point. And
Yeah,
so
they have to play over here.
they have to play over there. And then that also just like means that you have way more like vision. So like if your Reaper like TP's in, it's really easy for you to like bubble because you can see him from like any point up there.
How can we make use of our Mei wall in this position? And then who's the Mei player actually?
I
Oh, okay. So where are you looking to wall? Because this is a team effort for the Mei wall to happen.
okay. So we're on left hand side and they're on right hand side.
Mhm.
Okay.
Let's say
Wow.
their queen is holding right here and they're just Soj Genjiing over here.
Okay. Well, personally, I would probably like either wall off the support in the back line, connect it to like that like little ledge thing, or wall off the ledge.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine. Honestly, I don't know where I was going with this. I was just looking at the options to retake because, yeah, I haven't seen the Zarya comp on this map very much, so I don't know exactly how that would play out. What I guess we can like brainstorm out loud on how this might play out if that happens. Which they're probably gonna have a rail, and by the time you guys get here, they're gonna have a rail to shoot into you. So immediately they're probably going to set tempo, especially since you have to push into them. When you wall, you have to force a shout, and then you're probably gonna have to restabilize somewhere and use an ultimate. So playing down here is not the best, because then they still have the Soj up here to shoot you guys, and the Genji to be able to bully you and take your high ground if you do drop. So I think now that we've thought it out, it's good to know that you probably won't be able to push in very well until you get an ultimate to balance the fight out somehow, or until you get a very big advantage, which, looking at the cooldowns here, it's probably going to be like Suzu out. Again, no dash or no legs on the Sojourn, and then maybe no like shout, and then you guys can go in. Otherwise, any ideas on how you can break into the point and get the strong neutral here? Because I feel like they're always going to have the strong neutral onto this high ground. That might just be a fact of life where it's just like they always have the strong neutral and we need to do something to break it.
Are you saying like from that same position, from like going on the left side high ground, or are you saying if you want to just like break into it? So like, what's another way we could go?
Either or, because we can
Okay.
we can think about a different rotation into the point if it's better.
I mean, if the so I feel like regardless of which position you go into, Genji Soj are gonna have the high ground, whether that's the high ground on the point or that's the high
Mhm.
ground in front of the point.
Yeah.
So I think at that point, it's just which has the better like Mei walls, which one gives like more kill potential from Mei. And I feel like if you maybe go from point instead, like in the back corner doorway on the left side, you go that way, you force them off the point, and then you're able to get like I feel like maybe better walls off the high ground or just like on the JQ.
Like
Okay.
I think plan.
Uh-huh.
We somehow get the Mei close to the JQ
All
and
right, we're
then
doing
activate.
sim.
No, activate like the freeze thing, and then you melee her, and then she gets to like half health, and then like they get scared, and then they have to back off.
So Lucio Amperin.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like that could work by going through that left side doorway, like surprising them and just amping out the door. You just like speed out onto them
And then wall their queen,
and then
she's probably doing
and then
something
wall their
dumb.
queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
part of it is also like where they're set up, right? For example,
Yeah.
like if they're set up on the podium, then it might be better to rush from the left side. But if they're set up on the other high ground, then
Yeah.
like the third option that you mentioned could be
Mhm.
better.
They're probably going to be up here, so it's probably going to be going from the low ground. Then I want to
Yeah.
hear from everyone. So we have our Zarya, like how you're going to use your cooldowns, because the positioning is obvious. Or I'll just give you your positioning anyways in the neutral. Once we push in, your Bat Lucio are going to be back here playing the LOS. Your Reaper is probably going to either TP here, if we find the opportunity to, or look for the like running onto point on the opportunity of the wall. And our tank and Mei are going to run here and maybe try to stabilize here, or if not, we're going to get pushed back. So for everyone involved, this is why knowing the neutral is important, because for every, let's say we only have 70% accuracy on how we're using our cooldowns and the positioning, versus a team that has like 99% accuracy, like an Owl team, that'll provide way more consistency if we always have wall ready, or if we always have speed ready to rush on, or Reaper's positioning is always ready for the bubble to be able to create that space to push in. So we'll go through like one by one and the players, just so you guys know what your role is, first of all, which I think we already established them, and then how you adapt in this position to better like accomplish your goal. So what is the let's go through Zarya. How are you going to be using your cooldowns here? You really only have like 1.5.
I'm probably gonna be bubbling the Reaper when he gets aggressive. I feel like I can't really like use and then I guess like just save my bubbles for myself so I can touch point, I guess.
Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much it. And then where are you positioning? And or
If
you
we're
can
coming
either
from the
position
left-
forward or you can position on the left. And so what is the reasoning for forward and what is the reasoning for left?
Well, forward is if like we're getting aggressive and if I want to pressure like I can maybe kind of pressure the high ground better.
Mhm.
And also take point. Like if I want to bully like the tank that's down here,
Mhm.
like on the low ground, like I can do that pretty much if we're like taking point, like and we're taking tempo, I guess.
Okay,
And then I
yep.
back up if we're like stabilizing or if we're trying to slow things down.
Um if you're playing against, let's say, Bastion Sim, when are you playing forward?
Definitely when they don't have turret. Um, Sim. I don't know. I feel like so if I'm forward, they can like TP in my back line. That's like the thing that's scary. I guess like if the fight's kind of broken out and like the Sim is kind of doing her own thing, then maybe I can go for it and I don't have to worry about that so much. Um,
Mhm.
that's my only real thoughts. I'm not really sure.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I think at least just knowing it and articulating it is great, because in game when you like find yourself making the not mistakes or misplays or anything, but when you get shredded if you're forward, you know the reasoning why and you're able to improve or adapt based off of.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to your Mei. This should be like pretty straightforward. You're going to be playing with your Zarya, so we'll go through the exact same thing. How are you using your cooldowns against the Soj Genji first, and then positioning against that on like left or right here?
So you want me to choose left or right?
Yeah, yeah. Like which scenario? Because you know there's a time for each.
Okay. Well, I'll be holding hands with the Zarya, and then I'm gonna let that dictate where we're at, or depending on if we get like a wall, obviously we go in. But if we're like in the neutral, probably left, and then um yeah.
Okay, yeah. I also caution you. Don't be holding hands with your Zarya. Just be like positioning where she is for when you're ready to wall.
Yeah.
If you're playing up here in the neutral, yeah, it's very dangerous. Yeah, and then what
If I'm
abilities can you save your cryo for?
abilities to save Chrono for,
Yeah, or like
um
what would be a worthy use when you're like low health?
and they're running the JQ comp.
Yeah, with Surge Genji.
If Genji is on me and I'm low,
Mhm.
Or if um tank is low and I'm also low and tank doesn't have bubbles, I'll just cryo so the heals can focus on the tank.
And then what about the queen?
Probably when if I get noise, cryo.
Mhm. It's also worth noting the axe and shout, because if they shout towards you and you use your cryo and we use a bubble, their shout is completely nullified if we're playing a strong neutral here. Okay.
Okay.
Let's go on to our Reaper player. So, who's our Reaper player? Is that gonna be Rogue?
Me.
Oh, okay. Where are you trying to position here?
Like maybe height. If Zarya's like forward, like I call for a bubble and try to push them off height, or lower like where your mouse is at,
Oh, okay.
looking for
Here
a
or here?
wall. Yeah.
Okay. Where are you playing in the neutral if we're not TPing?
Mm, probably behind like the middle, where the middle of the plane is to the left. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really strong position. Also consider if they're not punishing you, you can take the very forward off angle. And the off angles are very important when you're on Brawl. And how are you using your cooldowns in this composition again?
Waiting for Zarya bubbles before going in.
Yeah, for
and
using your TP.
looking- Yeah, TP.
Okay. I think, yeah. And then going over the nuances of every single iteration is important. But understanding, I guess, like, just to go through it fast, when you do TP, try to have your Wraith form. So if your Zarya asks if you're ready to TP and you don't have your Wraith, make sure that you know, first rule of life saving is don't drown yourself. So, make sure that you're ready to be able to follow up on it on your own and get value out of it by having your Wraith form after the bubble. And then, so let's go to our Baptiste and then our Lucio. So Baptiste, where are you positioning and then what cooldowns are you using?
It'll probably be high ground, like behind that wall. Oh wait, no.
Wait, which one? We'll do like 1, 2, 3, I guess 4 up top, and then we can make 3 like down below. Or
That
5.
looks pretty good. Let's say 3.
Okay, yeah. Like 1 or 3, and then or 4, or maybe even 2 a little, like flexing in between. But how are you using your? This one is kind of like forehead, but how are you? What abilities are worth using your lamp for, or what scenarios?
Wait, what abilities?
Yeah,
Oh, what scenarios? Okay. So it's mostly when we're getting dived, right, or rushed on.
yeah. So trading your lamp for which specific abilities on their team?
They're doing Junker Queen, right?
Mhm.
So mostly like when they're shouting in.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's pretty much just all reactionary based off of like when your team is low because of like random search headshot or something. And then for your Lucio, I think this one's more important for the positioning. Where are you playing?
I think it matters. So, for example, if our Zarya is trying to like I think we were talking about how like you're flip flopping between two different positions, so I would like speed the Zarya in that scenario. But mostly I'd probably be playing with BAP, right?
Mm-hmm. How are you using your cooldowns here?
I guess since we already have point here and we're waiting for them to come on us, I'd be using amp defensively more. But Yeah, and then boop is for if like I don't know, Genji dashes in, I'd try to boop him. It's just for displacement for anyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then I think just to save time for your entire team's win con, because the Sojourn is going to have this high ground or this off angle over here, and it's going to be very oppressive. Just our entire team in general should be playing, first of all, to build our ults in the neutral and break through with one of our ults, because like we just established, it's very hard to be able to break through this in the brawl. But if everyone is playing for that, and as a personal philosophy and also how the current meta is dictating, if you play very greedy for your cooldowns and hold the strong neutral, and like hold to take the strong neutral and just hold instead of trying to make anything happen that's risky. For example, like walling and rushing all the way out here is a really risky rotation. Unless it's very obvious, then we can just play for our ults in the neutral and enjoy our position on point. And that's why having the strong neutral is very good. And then I think this one should go a bit faster, because I'm also not going to ask everyone about all their roles.
Wait, yeah, I had one quick question about this map specifically. How come you don't hold higher up on the mega, and you like basically contest the mega? Like no, on the like where you walk out through the spawn doors. Like let's say you've already taken this. Like back a little bit more. Right there. Let's say we're like, we had taken it.
Oh, okay. So you pushed up and you're defending?
Yeah.
You're defending now. What is there anything wrong with like holding this other than I feel like it's just like really aggressive? Like I think you're the rotation of getting back to point is like way more scuffed. Because like there's so much open space that you have to like really be like, I don't know, like together on the rotation back if they do push through. And I guess they,
There's a ton of angles for them to flank, and also your trades are going to be scuffed because your backline is always trying to get out once they're pressured a little. So you can start up here and start trading cooldowns, but know that especially if they pop an ultimate, it's super hard for you guys to kite out. And then even more so, it's super hard for you to play the strong neutral of holding them here. And it's even just a better trade, especially if you're like holding this corner with your queen and your DPS on this high ground or on this high ground. This high ground's more preferred, so then they don't take the high ground from you. You can contest it. But this setup is super strong because you have the wall here. You can trade most cooldowns out in main, and your backline is completely A-OK, LOSing and supporting your tank here. Versus on this up here where we can see that if they have any flankers, it'll pressure your backline. Yeah. And especially if they have an ult or an ult from a flanker. Let's say they have freeze. It's super hard to rotate. So, I mean, of course, you know, the scenario will dictate that holding up here is perfectly fine. But if you're...
Yeah, like let's say they're down somebody or something, you have like numbers advantage.
Yeah,
like,
as soon as it's back even though, you want to slowly start going back. Because you don't want to have them have that opportunity to take any trades against you that are negative for your team.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next point. Okay. And then so where's your initial pathing on this map? Left, middle, straight to point, or right? Which?
It's right.
Right.
Okay. And then against the mirror, it's like very easy. You play against. Let's go over like a Bastion comp, for example. What is the strong neutral, and how are you going to play against this Bastion comp? Or like, where is the strong neutral on this map? Let's go for the Lucio player since you're the main support and you set the tempo.
Yeah. So with this is just first fight, right?
Yeah, where do you guys all want to play? And then everyone should have this in the back of your head because you're all fighting for this position.
Yeah, probably. I mean, so like that choke in the back. So we'd wait for like the Bastion to use their turret form. Then like wait that out, we have like a lot of cover for that. And then after that, like, we can go in and Maywall, and we'd have like amp or something for that. So
Okay. So in the neutral against Sebastian, so you were saying, yeah, Maywall here. The strong
Yeah.
neutral would be like up here on this high ground because then you have all the
Okay.
ability to stuff them. If they have no line of sight with that Bastion, it's super easy to just like kite it and be able to contest everyone else that's doing stuff. Or if
Okay.
the Bastion pushes out and their tank pushes out, you still have the ability to kite it or even drop the point. So going over the in the neutral again, how for example we were going over on the first point and second point, you'd rather have this high ground because it's like a stalemate for them to push into you, and if they do drop, it's really bad for them. But more specifically, so this high ground right here, and having your supports have this entire area to wander over. That way, that you guys can be flexible. Usually they'll back up and lock themselves over here and try to shoot from over here. But if you have your entire team able to kite over here, it forces them to drop point, and then at that point you can
then
devolve
you
the
just-
point.
Okay.
Mhm. Or you can rush with wall depending on where the rotation is and the opportunities given to you. But just so everyone knows, we're really fighting for this ground, and so like just some basic macro where it's like, yeah, the Bastion turret forms. We need to back up and wait for our turn to be able to go back in because our win con is that wall, and the turret form will destroy the wall. And pressure our Zarya out. But after that, we can send our Reaper TP anywhere from over here, or over here in main to be able to break through and just hold this strong neutral with our high charge Zarya. And then going over the retake, what is your team's pathing here? So like left, mid, or right?
Left.
Okay. And then how are you guys going to break the strong neutral? Like without any ults? Or let's say that you do have only window. This would be like the most common first fight scenario. You have only window and you're coming up on beat. They have beat, they have window. They are almost at their tank ult. I guess let's go for your tank player because you set the tempo and you have the control over the space. How are you looking to play into their composition?
Well, if we both have window, I think we probably have to bait turret, because I don't think if we both window and they have turret and we have our main Reaper going forward, I don't think we can win that. So I don't know. I would probably try to bait turret and then go in after that with window. Yeah.
Okay. Personally, how would you bait the turret?
Um, just by like walking up, to like I don't know, not even to the middle, just far enough where I can back out with my bubbles. Hmm. We could also what is the Maywall time? Like the cooldown time?
Um,
Like 10 seconds or
yeah, I want to
something.
say like 8 to 10.
Okay. Hmm. Um, I don't know, because I don't think we should send Reaper in. I don't think we should Maywall. It's kind of hard, like because they could just not turret. Um, but who's their other DPS?
The Reaper?
Oh, they have a Reaper?
Oh,
Okay.
they no, they have a sim.
Yeah, they're oh, a Sojourn?
Sim,
Because I
sim,
feel
Sim.
like
Symmetra.
Symmetra.
oh, Sim? Okay. Um, hmm. I guess we just have to I don't know, like poke well, I guess. Maybe for poke his Bastion, maybe. Um, I'm trying to think of like how to force
You guys do
Alright, 'cause-
you do have window and close to beat, but they also have window and
Yeah.
beat. So
I have a good question.
Mhm.
I guess it's regarding this. What's I don't know if I'm. What about what's the opinion on using like Maywalt defensively to gain ground, basically, not like walling anybody off, but
Um,
utilizing it to prevent them from having LOS, so that you're able to take a more
Yeah, like-
aggressive position there,
I think
or like even farther up,
Mhm.
if you can.
yeah, if their queen is playing like this far back, you could try to do that. Not to say that it's bad, but I think you can just get so much more value out of Maywall using it to wall off a tank, or like getting to a better position. For example, if you get over here, this Maywall is super deadly against their tank. Where then you use the strong neutral of, like, you threaten them of either push us and get us out of the strong neutral, or you always lose on point. Or we just save wall and we get here by like trying to wall a tank and getting the turret form out, and then we get here. So I think this is really important to go over, and it kind of sucks to like grind these scenarios out, but it goes to show like you cannot be adaptable if you have nothing to adapt from. You know what I mean? If we don't have a default against a team comp, and we're not like if we, for example, like, I mean, like, never to compare to anyone else, but if we just played like OWL professional players, then we would like be as good as OWL players. And OWL players would just have this on the back of their hand. So if you ask like Gold, for example, like the best players on Gold, like Frosted, he would just instantly spit out like the different iterations of what can happen. So if they use the specific cooldown, maybe they dropped a point, and he'd be able to lead the team through that. So the more of this that we can get out, and then the more adaptable your team is able to play, the more you'll have like really solid decision making, and the more consistently you get the strong neutral in this composition, which is enables your win con. The more your win con will be active, and the more you'll win. So I think to help you out here, I'll just give you like the first answer on the retake here, where if you force the fight with the window, because the queen can't shout into you, if you guys set the tempo here, they have to back up, and then you take the fight up here and simplify by forcing them, or they back up to here. You put your Zarya, your Reaper, and your Mei up here, and then you're in this spot where you have the strong neutral, and you have now set tempo at the cost of some cooldowns. If they turret form, or if they do anything, if they peek the window, they all blow up. Or if they do push, we always have kite out to here or here, or like even over, if your supports are able to get out, and then your team is like happy playing here, and your Baptiste can play up here, and Lucio and whatever. But if you take the strong neutral, for example, if they beat or turret back in, that's fine, because you guys already have the strong neutral and you can stabilize out. And if you somehow stabilize to hold the strong neutral, then it's fine. Otherwise, the point or the fight devolves. They no longer have their win condition because they just used it. They just spent it all to get you out of the strong neutral. And even though they have the strong neutral, they aren't able to actually capitalize on it. Where you guys now have the point, and even though it's a little, it's still losing. It's still scuffed. You guys now have the point, and you've made progress. Though that's the important thing. So just the idea of being able to have like a default fight plan to be able to take like enable our win con by taking this space here, and then like when it eventually devolves into like having multiple ultimates where you have to like factor it into your decision making as an individual. Everyone will be able to say like, I'm a Zarya, but I know they have Reaper ult and they're going to be going on my backline, so maybe I should position back here with our window, and we should look for Mei walls up here and let them push in first, or you know, some other scenarios. Okay, so let's go over, we just went over retake, let's go over the defensive where
Sorry.
Mhm.
I have a quick question. Sorry, I have so many questions.
yeah, all good, ask them all.
So in this example of like these two different teams, our BAP window is like technically like inferior to their BAP window because they have the Bastion. Like in like a face off, like we would just like it just wouldn't be as useful to like save the window for one of our DPS to shoot through it. So in this situation, we're using it to create space and like pressure on their team. And that's like more so what it's for.
Yeah. So like the way we play our cards here is like we'll never like if we see them window the bastion, we'll never counter window and shoot back.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
We're gonna window first to see if we can pressure them to move backwards or LOS our window, or if they counter their our window with their window, then that's fine, and we just LOS theirs because we're not gonna win that fight.
Yeah, and even
then we can force. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then after that, we have beat. So then after the window's gone and after bastion turret's gone, then we just force in with the amp and then beat. And walk up on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chipping away at the rock. But
Wait.
Mhm.
Oh, another thing for the bat ult, ours. Low key, I think we could just use the BAP could use it selfishly just to heal more.
Oh, yeah.
It's like mid fight and we're low.
Or if Zarya gets like a really good ult or something, then like you can utilize it like that way. But like
Yeah, for
like
sure.
It is. I think it's totally in this situation. It's an ult that you can use selfishly or to create space for your team to walk up and like take space.
Yes, yeah. There are many different situations where you can get much more value, especially if you're stuck. Because I want to go over like this specific scenario where you're stuck and you don't have the strong neutral, and the fight is like very oppressive. Because this will be like the breaking point of teams where it's like you get to this point and you're like fine on all the other different like scenarios where like mid fight or cleanup or turning the mid fight, and then you get to this like point where you have to retake or hold, and it's a very crucial like just rock paper scissors, but we just didn't play the right cards, and it'll feel like we get super stuck here if we're not able to be flexible with whatever cards we have in our hands. So also a quick tip against Sebastian, if you think about it in turns, for example, like the brawl based composition, when they use their cooldown, that's their turn. You can either match and use your turn at the exact same time, or just wait their turn out, and then you have your turn right after. So if they turret form immediately, your team can full LOS. If the queen is pushed up on your turn, that's great. You have easy wall, and then you win on your turn. Otherwise, on your turn, you have the choice of go in or hold. And if they don't have turret form, you can most likely go in, and then boom, you take the neutral high ground. So every time that they don't take the neutral high ground on their turn, you just hold your next turn, and you just keep on winning.
Wait, what if? What if they just don't use Bastion form like until you're like on them? So
if they play
like,
smart,
if they hold out their turret form a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what about like the option of like Reaper goes, so like you can make it so that you pressure them from the front and the back by having Reaper like TP behind them still, and like if Bastion does turret, you have, or you know he's going to turret, you could have Reaper just TP into the back with a bubble and try to like burst him.
Yeah. In the neutral, you guys should just be able to run over the queen with the Reaper until they turret form. So if they never turret form and they're just like greeting super hard, you can just wall, or not even have to wall, and just run the queen over when she doesn't have shout running into your backline.
Or you could use you could like run at the queen if they decide to Bastion turret, use the Mei wall sort of defensively and aggressively by putting the Mei wall up for the Bastion turret and then also walling off their like queen. But I guess like she's just gonna like burst through the fucking wall. He's Bastion.
Yeah. But then they use their turn, and we're back at square one.
They use it, and it also gives you like a split second decision of like, okay, we gotta amp out, or we need to like LOS this real quick. It gives you like just a moment of like time to like react, basically.
Yeah, and also thinking in the neutral, remember you do have Zarya, and the Zarya is like super strong when charged, and that's like part of your win con to be able to take the high ground or the strong neutral.
So just fucking kill bot and like keep her alive while she's gaining a bunch of like charge through like turret or not like turret, but like the damage that she's taking.
Yeah, you have a lot of
Sure about that.
pressure when their Bastion isn't in form, so that's very nice for you guys. Okay, now let's go over the defense, and then I think we can like go over questions or special scenarios and think more into those rather than doing another map. That way we can just be very solid on this map. And once you're solid on one map, it'll kind of just like osmosis over into different maps because it's like, oh, this map looks exactly like Oasis University or Oasis City Center. What a coincidence. We can just do the exact same thing. Okay, so on the defense, where do you guys want to be positioning against the Bastion? It's like left, middle, or right? Or middle back?
So we've capped the point, and they're trying to like walk up on us basically, and and we're trying to defend the point basically.
They're coming from spawn. Yeah.
Okay.
They full reset.
Does anybody want to answer?
Yeah, probably right, I guess.
Well, let's go for a bat player. Yeah.
Yeah.
To answer the next couple of questions, because this for you is really like, how are you able to get maximum value? Because your team could really play for anywhere, but they'll like screw you over if they're playing over here because you're like, yeah, I can't heal anyone unless I'm like in a really bad spot. So yeah, so we're playing right. Let's say okay, let's go a different scenario where they push through main. Where do we want to be playing for a wall, or in the where's the strong neutral if they, or let's say they go bottom left here. Where that player, where do you want your Zarya to be playing so then you can heal her, and where do you want to be playing to be in a really solid spot? Who's the
I feel like around the Zarya can play around the stairs area, right?
here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then where do you want to be playing?
And then I would be like on the high ground behind the wall.
Here?
Yeah,
Or-
around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then where do you want your team to stabilize, like if they lose this position?
And then you just be retreating, right? Like retreating onto point.
And then playing behind the point here?
Yeah.
And then where would you position in that scenario?
Onto our stairs then.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of an open position, but if you can continue to position over here, so then you have access to the high ground, or this high, I don't think you can jump up there, but the stairs is fine, but realize again, if they have anyone flanking, you're gonna really get hit. And if you're playing point, you can also like be flexible to be able to walk up and still be able to get value out of denying the enemy by shooting them. I think, okay, let's go back to let's go to the Reaper player. Where do you want your Mei to be walling them here? Or let's go to the right side because this is more default. Where do you want your Mei to be walling the enemies?
Yeah, tell me what to do.
To all them, like once they walk through the doorway, or like yeah.
And then like what is your positioning in regards to the turret form, because that's their win con, the turret form and the shout.
If they're inside the room, like try to play on like the right side where your mouse is at,
Okay.
or maybe above them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that when they have their turret form, or is that when they don't have their turret form?
When they
Sorry.
don't.
Okay. And then, so let's say they do use their turret form and they're pushing out, and you guys lose this corner. What is your like initial idea of like what to do?
Is Wraith away? Wraith?
Okay, yeah. And then let's weigh out like quickly. Let's reason out like what is the advantage of, or like if you stayed and shot at the Reaper. I mean, sorry. If you're on Reaper and you stayed and shot at the turret form Bastion while they're shouting in, um, let's weigh out, would that be good or bad for you?
Probably bad.
And then what's the reasoning why in regards to your team's win con?
They're probably gonna turn on me right away, and then I might just get bursted before able to wraith away.
Okay. I think even more in depth also is your team is not looking to play during the turret form. Yeah, so he will look at you, and it's important to note that your team will all be LOSing while he's turret forming rather than contesting it. Where if you guys are also on Bastion and you have the turret, it would be worth it to sit here and wait until he starts shooting you. Which of course you should always be waiting until he starts shooting you while you're up here. When he's turreting, but more diligently so looking to like push in and actually get even more value if you guys are on a Bastion comp and for some reason you're not on Bastion. That wouldn't really make sense, but just the idea of playing with your team's win con, because understanding that they're going to be playing for the wall and not contesting the Bastion when he's turreting. And then I think really quickly, we can go over. Actually, there's like way too many scenarios for every ultimate because I wanted to go over usually how every ultimate would be played out. Yeah, I think instead we can just open for questions on any of the 3 points.
I have a question.
Mhm.
What's up this Moira comp?
What's with the what?
This Moira comp.
This is a quick
the
play
game.
Is this?
Yeah.
Oh,
this
it's quick
play?
play.
Yeah, this is like a silver
Okay, yeah.
quick play game. I just did it to go into the like to spec.
We can play this comp.
I was like, literally, let's play this comp.
You're like, please. Oh, I had a question not regarding, I guess, this map specifically, but just like team comps. Last week we decided as a team because we're not we were talking about, we haven't like decided. We have like a large amount of support players on this team, and we were thinking about basically just making it so that each support is kind of more in charge of having like a certain hero that they mainly play. Max over here plays a lot of like Lifeweaver, Moira, Brig, and Mercy. I was curious on your opinion on Lifeweaver ERE.
If because okay, it in my opinion, in my experience of like 8 billion scrims and 8 billion tournaments, comfort picks up until like 4.3 will usually win. So if you guys have good synergy on the Alari BAP, or sorry, the Alari Weaver, and it makes sense with your comp, and you can enable your comp's win condition. Because if, for example, you have like a Ramatra and a Farah on that comp, that's going to be really, really tough. Because you guys, like you have Brawl, Spam, and then you have like Spam and then Brawl again, and your team's really hard split. And on like a specific map, like on this map, you wouldn't really be able to control the high grounds very well, or enable your RAM. But if you're on a comp, for example, your team really likes dive spamish, where you have, I dare I say Ball because he's so bad right now, but like Ball would be a great example if he wasn't super undertuned. Like Ball, Echo, Genji, where you can really make use of that backline and be able to spam and dive and be able to use the Weaver's like utility. It is completely fine to just be able to pick the comfort picks, and then as long as you understand the win cons, it'll do well.
Okay.
Yeah, that is to be said that you will eventually hit like teams that are just like hard playing meta, and then it's like, oh, that's why meta's strong. But until then, you can probably run it for quite a while.
I have a question. Could we like talk about what like from their perspective, like if they're playing a Bastion Reaper comp, like what they're looking for?
Okay, yeah. On the retake or the neutral or just everything?
I guess just everything. We don't have to go as in depth, but
So, well, first of all, like to preface, everyone is looking for this high ground. Everyone is looking for like that point presence where they can just hold their queen, for example, up front, and then take advantage of the fact that like you can't really even get walled if you're playing like up here, which yeah, so if you're playing, for example, up here or on that first point, on Icebreaker, if we can visualize like the point being here and then like the natural high grounds where your queen can play right here, and it's really hard to wall her because the enemy team has to speed in first. Even then you have your Lucio here and your lamp on the other side. Um if you get this natural high ground, it's super good for your entire team, your Bastion and your BAP, and the enemy team is going to suffer greatly, especially if they have to drop the point, because once you're here and your queen plays here, it's nearly impossible to get your wall out and force this queen out because the Bastion and BAP are so happy and they just like free shoot and no one can contest them because you guys are on May Reaper without like, you know, TP bubbling, but then like you lose part of your win con. So if you can deny the Zarya and enable your Bastion, and the way to do that is during your turret form, either you sim your Bastion somewhere creative, which I wouldn't really exactly see it here, or if you get here first, and then you have your queen claim middle, and if you don't charge the Zarya, then the Zarya won't be able to hold the neutral, and the wall won't be very potent. If they do come out with the wall and your queen survives, it's either because you turret formed, and then during that time you're looking to push in as far as possible, and if you get them to that choke during your turret form, you're like, again, like glorious, and you're just like fine, you're just having fun. Otherwise, it's pretty much just like get as much value as you can out of the turret form and deny your win con of the wall and Zarya in the neutral as much as possible. So, and then when you don't have turret form, let's say they don't have turret form up here, they're gonna back up and try to play like out here, look for picks, like from their Bastion or like opportunities to, where's my mouse? Opportunities to do something to your team, and like let's say your BAP is up here and your Bastion gets a sticky onto him, then they're gonna have to drop, and then they can retake that high ground, or that they can take that momentum into main. But in the, for example, in the retake for you guys, so their hold, they want to hold their Bastion back here and deny your wall, so their queen's going to be up here again. And whenever you guys try to go in, they're immediately going to turret you out. Or if you're using your bubbles and are like coming out very strong, they're going to try to save their form and like walk out. And then so when you're like very happy and you're like, haha, we have the neutral, but you traded your amp, both bubbles, Reaper, teleport, your May wall just to get here, then they still have everything, including like their form and their shout and their axe, to be able to just run back into you and use their explosive strength. So it, like from a top-down perspective, if you look at it, they're trying to play super slow compared to you guys, because if they play slow, they'll have more resources to be able to like take that explosive energy and claim what they want. And then on the retake, it's a bit nefarious for you guys because they have a sim, but they're going to be looking to send their queen in and sim TP and create havoc and get you off of this high ground. Or most likely on the retake, they're going to have ults, so they'll be able to use those ults in different ways. For example, like window the corner, so you're forced to go in, and then they TP their Bastion here. Or something like window here, so then your tank is forced to play down here, and they TP the Bastion down here to get an off angle onto the tank. But pretty much anything to just gain the strong neutral of like whether it be on point or up here by utilizing the Bastion. So it is kind of exactly like just the exact opposite of your composition.
Mm-hmm. So would you say it's like important that for us they get like as little value of turret as possible, and we get values from bubble?
Yeah.
Like that's like pretty simple, I guess.
And like ult track.
But like so in the first fight, should we just be playing to make them waste turret, I guess, at first, because it's like, because I feel like if we just wait and let them take all the space, like, then they just win, or if we just go in like super hard, they just win. Um,
Mm,
so do we just like try to bait energy and try to bait out turret like as much as possible?
Yeah. So
And
that's
like
where like
also how
understanding
do
the
we
win
do
con because
that?
yeah. So like we were going over before, how to better enable your Maywall and how to counter their Bastion by kiting it, or like positioning reactively or proactively. So then that when they do use their turret form, like if you're on top of the enemy team and you're like obviously better than them at a very very high level, you'll find that like every time they turret form, you're so prepared for it. It was just like that you made them turret form and you were looking for this to happen because they have no better alternative. It's like a forced mate. Where they have to do it because they're going to be losing even more than if they do it now, which they're still losing. So that's where setting tempo comes into play. Where if you don't set tempo by, for example, getting high charge, or if you don't set tempo by getting a good wall on their queen, their composition is quote unquote, in my words, easier because they can just live and slowly walk forwards.
Yeah,
Um,
it's brain dead.
yeah. So that's why like double sniper, like shield break compositions are just like super easy to play on those maps that they're strong on. Because all they have to do is shoot your tank and then they just walk forward and they just do it over and over and over again and it requires nothing. Whereas your comp is like, okay, everyone LOS, we're getting ready for wall 3, 2, 1, bubbling Reaper TP. And then that's our
yeah.
equivalent to, okay, everyone shoot the shield. So,
Yeah, so I have a question.
mhm.
Would it be a good idea to like um when we're coming up like first fight, does our Reaper TP in and then we bubble him? Because I'm thinking like I feel like it's kind of hard for me as Zarya to get charge because like either I'm not in a position where they have to shoot me, like because I'm just kind of far back and they can just stop shooting me as soon as I bubble, or I'm like too deep and I don't have the resources to get out. Like the bubbles aren't going to get me out. Um,
Mhm.
so should we like send Reaper in with a bubble, um, and try to force turret that way, and then come back out and stabilize, and then go in? I'm just wondering how like hard should we go at first? Um,
Mhm.
I,
yeah.
yeah, I was actually gonna say I feel like that's a good idea. Like, because if you force, what is it? If you have Reaper TP in with a bubble, you get some charge, and then that's just bubble and Reaper TP. So Reaper can walk out. And if that forces Bastion turret, then afterwards you're able to wall and it'll take them like a little longer to like break the wall. And then you still have like Reaper to be able to like be aggressive on the JQ that's being walled now.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
Gotcha.
it might be better to talk about this in like a one-on-one more extensively. But I'll give you
Mm-hmm.
like the abbreviated answer where um if both teams don't use anything, you guys can just walk and you have more potential pressure than the enemy team because you have that May wall and you have the ability
Hmm.
to like um or you can set tempo just by having more space than them.
Mm-hmm.
Of course it comes down to like very very small trades, but for your default, like again, if when you see that composition, the most common occurrence is probably you just going to be running straight forward. And then you bubble once when you see them start shooting. So if they throw a knife at you, or if she starts her axe, or if the queen is just shooting at you, the number one thing on Zarya is when the tank is engaging, it's use your bubble because they either have to shoot the bubble to hold the space and break it, or you waste your bubble, but then you push forward. Um, it
Gotcha.
also it depends on like the matchup because if it's like a monkey, then that's for sure. Otherwise, if it's a Reinhardt, he just holds his shield and laughs. But if you're
Yeah.
against the queen comp, you basically want to just get 40 charge out of your first bubble and then you're flexible on the second because now you're over here and they make the decision of, okay, do we engage and do we go in on them? and then have them get the choice of getting full charge and dropping to point, which you then can set tempo with your charge, because if you guys play that very cleanly, you trade nothing except one bubble for their turret. Or do you continue playing up here and they slowly bleed out? Because as soon as you get your next bubble, if they don't use anything, they don't use any of the tank cooldowns to pressure you out, they don't use the Reaper to press you out, that sim is just going to hard farm your bubbles, and then that'll devolve into like how much damage is your team putting into the enemy tank to push the tank back so you can access killing the sim, or getting good shots onto the sim or their backline, and like very small trades of space. Which will happen a lot, especially if you're not like at a very, very high rank where like everyone is very diligently paying attention. So I think being reactive after the first default where you're like, okay, I have 40 charge here, and now like, what do I do? Or if you see that they're already turreting, then you can just get 80 charge. And then like once you guys start retaking through, you don't even need your bubbles on the retake because they don't have their win con. And then you can just hold your high charge and hold your beam on the Junker Queen. So it's more of like a micro thing on how to get value on Zarya, and like 1v1 every single enemy on the enemy team at the same time to be able to get the maximum value out of your bubbles versus your positioning.
Gotcha.
So I guess it's more of like statements as question or verification. So our comp has a little bit like more control of the team fight because of Maywall. Either if we push forward, they have to push forward also like fully as a team or risk getting like walled off, or they all have to like walk backwards as a team or risk getting walled off. Like the JQ does.
Yeah,
like,
I think in certain scenarios, yes, it's like apples versus
saying there's
oranges.
no like saying like basically Bastion doesn't have turret to like melt through the wall, like, or like you have a little bit like more control of like how the fight goes, and a little bit like more control of their positioning. Because of the pressure that it provides.
I'm not sure if more is the right word. I think it's different because then you're playing more close quarters and more corners to be able to LOS, and so you have a greater potential hold on the map. Like if we have like a potential versus like kinetic, like in physics, where an object in motion, like they can walk forwards, but you guys have a very explosive punishment for if they continue to walk forwards. So in that sense, you have control over the map. But you know that can very easily change if you use a cooldown that destroys that, and then it's just they have full control. Yeah.
Example, like we use it and we somehow get no value. We don't wall anybody off. Yeah. Then it's that like okay, now they can just then they just keep walking at us, or we use wall while they have turret, and then they just turret it and they melt it, and now they just like run at us.
Yeah, and that's very important
we're all walking
to understand.
Up on the wall.
Yeah, even like every cooldown will enable your win condition somehow or another, and like we should be thinking about it like that, because for example, if your Mei uses cryo and your BAP uses shift, you can no longer use that on your offensive push, and now you've lost like some of your potential. I think, and then I want to go over like actually really quick for your team from like a macro perspective, just like two concepts that'll like, even if you don't understand how they apply now or like the concepts themselves, hopefully we understand the concepts, but the more you play and then the more you learn, the more you'll realize that it just grinds down to like some fundamental rules or like rock, paper, scissors. So any matchup in a 1v1 or a 5v5 will come down to your cooldowns, your health, and your positioning. So if you're ever deciding, is this fight winnable, or are we going to lose this fight, or like do we have a grasp in this fight, or like who is favored, who has a strong neutral? If you just look at these three things, where it's like you can trade, all of these are resources too, because if you trade all of your health for all of their positioning and all of their cooldowns, like the next step, the next 5 seconds, they're not going to have anything to kill you, but you have your cooldowns and your positioning to protect yourself now. And that's why they can't kill you, because you're like on the high ground, for example, with no health and no cooldowns. But their positioning is so poor that they're going to lose that fight simply in the neutral because you guys are shooting them. And then the second concept, so now that you know like why you're trading to get those cooldowns, health, and positioning, which like those three, like that triangle will like, you know, we just talked about like all the cooldowns, health, and positioning in the neutral on like 3 different scenarios of neutral, retake, and defending. But now the reason why we want to take that high ground is if we look at like the different trades that are going on in the cooldown, health, and positioning, if we combine them all into like one giant resource bar, what we're trying to do in the strong neutral is create like a leverage trade. So for every tiny bit that we exert, for example, in this team composition, if we trade 1 deflect for a Moira orb and a soldier rocket, then they're going to be out of a little more energy. And then if we just do that like over a couple of times, you can see how like eventually they'll have not enough to be able to like deal with our win condition. And so when we're able to go in and we're able to identify our win condition, we can like end that fight and make it decisive and win the fight. But if we're not in the strong neutral, or like if we're somehow trading poorly where we use like too much of one like way too many cooldowns to hold our position, it might not show itself like initially because we still have our position, and at first glance it might not be like, for example, if we use all our defensive cooldowns like BAP, Shift, Lamp, May, Cryo, and Wraith, and both of our bubbles, but we're still here, that's like most of what we have, versus they're like sitting up top with no cooldowns. Their cooldowns aren't as impactful in their composition, so that'd be like a fourth of what they just used. And so they're super happy here because every single trade further we'll have to start giving up a ton of health and a ton of positioning, as well as what remaining cooldowns we have, and it's going to just like send us into where they can just pounce on us because they have the neutral high ground and because they're trading so well. So if we're thinking it's not going to be very self-evident right now where we're like thinking about just like bubble Reaper up here to get value, like haha get value, but when we quantify what value it gets, it's the positioning, the health and cooldowns from the enemy team, because they're probably not going to lose their positioning here, and at what expense did it come to us. And like one step further is like, did we get the high ground from it? Because if we used everything but we got the strong position from this, every trade from here on out will go in our favor. So it's like a worthy investment of our resources to be able to get here. Yeah, do we have any other questions about like anything said here? I think otherwise we've talked about a lot.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Yes. Okay,
Yeah, I'm good.
now guys, we have like that plan.
All right. Tomorrow we execute them.
Yeah, and then yeah, honestly, I don't think that like in the short term, coaching is gonna like excel your gameplay as a team. To be honest, like full like fair disclaimer. But it'll definitely set you guys in the right direction in the future. And the more you play this map, you're gonna have a way better direction. And so it's about like the process of improving on this map, especially, rather than actually like, because next time if you guys do play against the Bastion comp, you're probably going to be making a lot of mistakes. That's just inevitable. But then now you can identify the mistakes or identify how you could have played it better.
Exactly. Creating a foundation for like how to build off this map and like play off this map.
Yeah, so don't get your hopes up and then like be like, oh, this is terrible. Like why are we like losing? We already had a coaching session. It's just trust the process. We'll get there eventually.